Welcome to the Kawartha Small Business Podcast, where we believe the Kawarthas can be the most thriving region in Canada for small business. I'm Brian Rump from Profit Coach.
And I'm Matt Garrity from Managing Digital.
Before we get started, head over to kawarthasmallbusinesspodcast.ca/checklist and download Matt and Brian's marketing checklist for Kawartha small businesses. Today we're recording from the Thrive Podcast Studio at Thrive Co-working Community at 18 Kent Street West in downtown Lindsay. And with us on the show, we have Hilary Lehan from State of Mind Hypnosis. Welcome, Hilary.
Hi, thank you very much for having me today.
Awesome. So your business is State of Mind Hypnosis. Tell us why it's important to have a good state of mind.
Well, we started that business thinking, there's nothing more important than your state of mind. That's kind of our tagline for it. The mind is really everything. It all starts with the mind. So if you start off with, a good state of mind, then everything else kind of unfolds for you quite easily in life, whatever you're working on, whether it be with yourself or others, it just kind of happens easier for you, that kind of thing.
Oh, awesome.
How'd you get into hypnosis?
Oh my gosh. Okay, so I suffered, short story, I suffered from depression, anxiety, sleeping disorders. And I had initially trained for many years to be a designer. And once I kind of fell into that depression, that deep anxiety, and the sleeping disorder, the way I was able to come out of it was we knew hypnotists. And I went for hypnosis. And I was able to come out of that deep depression through the use of hypnosis and through being hypnotized and going through that. And once I came out of that, I thought, I know I've just spent 11 years training for other things, but I think I'm going to train in this now because I feel as if, if it can help me, I want to help others with it if I can. So,
have you tried other stuff with the depression, anxiety, like medication?
Yes. So I was put on medication for the sleep disorder.
That may have been too personal. I'm sorry.
That's okay. Absolutely. I believe that the medication for the sleep disorder at first, absolutely, it helped me. It helped me get to the point where I could work on myself, right? It allowed me that buffer. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's like the foundational stuff to get started, and you need something maybe to take you over.
Exactly.
Like the hypnosis.
Exactly.
Were you ever scared about hypnosis? Because I think the first time I ever heard the name, and I was like, these guys are hypnotists, they're magicians. It was weird. But then, immediately talking to you with our Monday morning coffees, it was clear that you weren't any of the perceptions that I had, and you were very lovely, calming, good to talk to, grounded, normal people.
Yeah, I'm not a magician. But absolutely, I was terrified actually of hypnosis years ago. Before I did hypnosis, I thought, like many people think, I thought, I'm going to be under control. I'm going to lose control. And that to me was a big no. I don't want to lose control or go to sleep and suddenly wake up a different person, that kind of thing. So I found out because, first of all, many people come to us they've tried everything and they're like, okay, I'm going to give it a go. And it's unfortunate that that's the case because we should be really top of mind, but that's just not the arena right now. But second of all, I went for it and I realized I'm not out of control. I'm just deeply relaxed. It's kind of that same sort of relaxation that you get when you're just waking up in the morning or you're just falling asleep at night. And it's just this lovely, heavy feeling in your arms and your legs, and you can snap yourself out of it if you want, right? You can come out of relaxation, but who doesn't love that nice state of relaxation, right? And in that relaxation, you're guided. You're guided to make these positive changes for yourself. When you are in that state of relaxation, the mind, the subconscious mind, is very open to making those changes for you, right? It's no coincidence that these sleep apps, that you can get, are very calming right before you go to sleep, right? And they give you these positive things to think about, because those things carry on with you. It's not just that night when you need sleep. It goes into your subconscious mind, and it helps you sleep for the future, right? That kind of thing. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think I don't understand it on the level you do, but I think maybe I understand it maybe a bit more than Brian, because I'm very into sleep stories. I don't do as much. So I want to say I was into meditation, but I haven't done it in ages. But it's one of those things where you do it and it's frustrating to yourself that you don't do it more, because you realize how beneficial it was.
Yeah.
And the thing you said most about control that was interesting, I don't want to go too far down the rabbit hole of this conversation either, but I talked to a counselor because I was so stressed and I didn't know what it was at the time. And he was like, it was stress. And he gave me all these tools. And the thing that came up there was I realized I'm not a control freak, but I don't like when I am not in control of things. That's why I don't like drinking. I don't like drugs. I don't want that to be taken over. So that's why earlier when we were talking about hypnosis, I'm I would never go on stage and be a hypnotist. The thing he said about control, to get it out of your head, is you're never fully in control of anything. It's all about managing it. So if you think that you're in control or you're trying to control it, you're never going to be able to, and that's just going to frustrate you more and stress you out more. Yeah. It's interesting. And I would now be open, based on everything we talk about, I'd be open to working with you because of, again, who I know you are and understanding having these conversations. I think too, I opened my mind to it a bit more too, and thinking a bit more about meditation. It sounds very similar to meditation.
It is. It's meditation with an outcome, or an objective, right? So somebody wants to, release panic or release weight. We're going after that, right? What is holding you back from losing weight? What's going on in your mind? Someone will say to me, well, I wake up in the morning and I want to eat healthy and, work out. And then by noon, they've had, pancakes with syrup and everything, and they haven't worked out, and they just feel that, that guilt. And on that note, with guilt is it creates a cycle. So, one of the first things that I work on with my clients is releasing that guilt, because, we all think we need to have guilt so that we're punishing ourselves, right? I need to punish myself so that I do it right the next day. Well, that's not how it works. Guilt works I eat a chocolate bar. I eat 5 chocolate bars, like I used to do. I used to go to, I'd go fill up my tank with gas. I'd go into the station. I'd get 2 Mars bars. I'd eat them. Even if dinner was an hour away, I'd eat them before I got home. And I was addicted to those Mars bars. But I felt guilt, right? And so what that guilt does is that you eat the Mars bars, you feel angry at yourself, you feel guilty, right? Because we feel like we need that guilt so that we make a different choice the next day. But what that guilt does is it stays in our subconscious mind. And the next day, the guilt is you did a bad thing yesterday. You need to punish yourself. So feeling bad, what do you do when you feel bad?
We do the same thing.
You do the same thing. You go and eat the Mars bars. So there I am at the getting gas, or not getting gas. I don't need gas 2 days in a row, hopefully, but but wherever I was, I'd be getting these little sweet treats here and there, right? And doing that to myself. So once you release that guilt for somebody, then it's not pressing them the next day to make those same decisions. They're making different decisions now. Or the next day, if they eat something that they know, I shouldn't have eaten that, they're like, okay, no, I shouldn't have eaten that. But you know what? I'm going to make a different decision. They're not beating themselves up any longer, right? And that's a big thing. That's a big change for somebody. And many people think that we need to beat ourselves up to make those changes, but we really don't.
Interesting.
Yeah. It's funny because I think we know negative punishment doesn't work. Like that's proven over and over and over again. But then we don't give people tools like this to actually do it. It's kind of the conscious mind, logically, I shouldn't beat myself up. But your subconscious mind still puts its boxing gloves on every time you do something. So it's having that tool to go through it versus just telling someone like, stop doing this, because that doesn't work. Why do you think, or maybe not why, but how do you think it's important for business owners to have a good state of mind?
Yeah, so that's a great question. I work with a lot of business owners, actually, but even myself, when I first started a business, I've started many businesses, but when you start a business, there's a lot of belief systems that are coming into play, right? Especially, maybe I'm not good enough to do this, or money issues come to mind. So, a big limiting belief around money is that, maybe I don't deserve to make that much money, or success. People being scared of success, right? So they sabotage themselves. So there's all these kinds of different limiting beliefs that entrepreneurs come to the table. Being an entrepreneur, you've got all this energy. Yes, I want to do this. But there's those little niggly thoughts in the back of your mind, like, what if this doesn't work? And what if this? And what if that? And I don't feel good about that. And so when I work with business owners, and what I would say to business owners, in relation to having a good state of mind is, it's expanding the mind. It's letting go of those limiting beliefs about yourself, about your business, that is pivotal in moving your business forward. Sometimes people are scared to launch things because they're scared of failure, right? Even before the business starts, right? They're scared of that failure. So what if we could remove that failure, or that thought of failure, right, in your mind? And then what would you do, right? How would you feel about that? And that often, you see, once that, limiting belief is lifted, that fear is lifted, that anxiety is lifted, then business owners can just be themselves, their authentic, creative selves, because oftentimes business owners are very creative, right? They've got these great ideas. They want to help the world. They want to do things. They want to get out there. They want to network. But there's all these fears that might be holding them back. So having that good state of mind is wonderful for them to have that platform and feel good about that platform and feel open to trying things out, right?
Why do you think we have this, and I hear this all the time, and I hear it from students I teach at Fleming College. Last week, some students said this, but people think I can't do business. Where do you think it comes from? Or this is just a general open question, like, why do we think that? Because logically, there's thousands of businesses in Kawartha Lakes, Peterborough, through our entire history, people have owned businesses. There's no rules that say you must run a business this way.
Yeah.
So I'm, been thinking a lot lately just about that limiting belief, or what is it we've built business up to be, to think that we can't do it.
So I love working with limiting beliefs. 'Cause, yeah.
You should have seen her eyes just light
Yeah.
up when you asked that question.
Yeah. Like, whew,
Yeah.
yes. Because I love sharing, because often people don't know where they come from.
Mhm.
And it's like, oh, wow, when they find out, and then it's so easy to let go of,
Mhm.
right? So a limiting belief is something that, so I can't do business. I can't do business. Okay. Well, what part of you can't do business? Is it that you're not good enough to do business? Is that what, I don't deserve to have a business? Or, well, that kind of business isn't going to work. Or, like what, you can drill down a little bit, but the general thing with limiting beliefs is that at some point in your life, based on something someone told you, you decided to take on that belief. So usually that's mom or dad. Sorry, mom or dad.
Yeah.
No,
right?
that's true.
It's society sometimes as a whole, right? It's a friend. It's a doctor, right? Sometimes it's a teacher. It's many
I
things.
think it could be, this is funny because
Yeah.
my brain goes right to
Mm-hmm.
two specific movie scenes
Mm-hmm.
that anger me now as someone who teaches college. And I get a lot of students who are like, well, I never thought I could do college.
Mm-hmm.
You know, again, side note, one of my
Yeah.
favorite parts of teaching is mature students who have come back to college.
Yeah,
They've thought their whole lives college is not for them. They're not smart enough. They can't do it.
that's right.
And they can do it. And it's awesome.
Like Billy Madison.
Like Billy Madison. But I was rewatching a movie, doesn't hold up, but Cocktail with Tom Cruise. And, I have someone I know who is an extra in the one of the classroom scenes where he's, in business, and the professor's like berating him because, he hands in his business plan. And he's like, you call this a business plan and it's terrible.
Yeah.
And I think we capture these like, oh, that's what it's like. Like if I don't have this big fancy business plan and a duotang, I can't run a business.
Yeah.
Which is not
Yeah.
true, and we've talked about that here.
Mm-hmm.
And then of all movies as well, House Party. I think it was House Party 2. They were at college, and there was, a scene where a professor was telling people, they didn't deserve to be there. You're not good enough to be here.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes people think they need to achieve something just to be able to be let in the door.
Yeah.
But you're sometimes in those doors because you don't have those skills yet. That's why you're there. And with a business, in Canada anyway, we have very low barriers to entry to have a business. Like basically you can just like declare you have a business and you can start doing business activities.
Yeah. Yeah. So what part of that made you angry?
I think just the frustration with the media telling people that. So, you watch that movie and you're like, oh, well, I can't do that. Or we put the businesses on a pedestal.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Even, we put college on a pedestal that you have to do something to be allowed in. Whereas reality is almost the opposite of that. Like, I don't think I've met anyone who can't run a business in some way. Lots of people can't run a business in a way that doesn't suit them. So you have to find the way and the structure that, fits you and your skills. And there's kind of many paths to that.
Yeah.
And I was going to ask if these limiting beliefs are more internal or external, but I think we've somewhat answered that because that's like what Brian just said in the media in so many ways. We're not big on trashing the media too much, but when talking like putting business owners on a pedestal, all those type of things. So where do most of those beliefs do you think come from? Are they internal or external?
We take them on at some point, right? So, either someone tells us we're not good enough or we make an assumption based on something that's happened. And the deepest limiting belief is I'm not good enough, right? That's the deepest core one. And many, many people suffer from that, right? So when did you take that on. So that can be internal, but I often tell my clients, imagine it externally, right? You weren't born thinking you weren't good enough. Mm-hmm. Somebody made you feel that way. Something made you feel that way. And now you're going to give it back, right? And so the beautiful part of doing the limiting belief work is that I get my clients to imagine taking that out. Take it out of you, right? It's not part of you. Throw it out there in front of you. Mm-hmm. Have the person or whatever you see come up in front of you and give it back to them. Mom, dad, usually, right? Mom or dad. Mm-hmm. And the wonderful part that really just really lets it go is after you give it back and you say, this is yours. It's not mine, right? Giving it back. I'm not holding on to this any longer. They take it in your mind, right? And then you tell them, you can give it back to whoever gave it to you. Right? And that's where you see real change, because the person realizes that, you know, their mom or their dad, they weren't doing it to hurt them. That's all they knew, because that happened to them from either their mom and dad. And so you see this generational thing happen within the person. And it is a beautiful transition. It's a beautiful change. I get like, emotional just talking about it. But
trying to break that cycle of like,
yes.
Yeah, sometimes we think that our mom and dad should have had it right because they're the older, smarter ones, but they didn't know, and look how they were raised. And somewhere along the line, we need to break that cycle and figure it out, maybe on our own, or not.
Yeah,
it's up to us.
Yeah, it really is. Yeah, it all starts with us and our mind and what we want to do.
I think it's interesting, everything you're talking about from a mindset perspective, because there is like a culture out there with business owners about you have to have a good mindset for business. And there's like the hustle mindset that was so popular years ago, and I think it's actually fading big time. But then we don't really talk beyond reading business books on how to have a good mindset.
Yeah.
And for you to be able to come in here and position yourself, whether it's just for not the average person, I shouldn't say that even, but like for more personal things that they want to overcome, like maybe it's smoking or maybe it's hating myself or something like that. But I would be fascinated, and I know we've spoken about this kind of off this conversation, but like I would love to see you positioning yourself more of like the business owner mindset, because I don't think we tangibly think about mindset with business owners. It's like you got to figure it out, go to presentations, the chamber or the city, and like go read a self-help book by Tony Robbins, and then you have your mindset all set. Right? So like I love the idea of like this being a pillar for business owners. Like you got to start a business, you need marketing, you need financial help, you need mindset help, and these need to be like the people you actually go to get set up.
Yeah. And what I would say to that is we as business owners, pre-business owners, we often think that it has to be perfect to start it, right? And it doesn't. Just jump in, start, right? Start and then let it unfold. If I waited for my anxieties and depressions, random and sleep sometimes to be perfect, right? Like to be totally gone, then I would never get started because we're always battling something, right? I'm not going to sit here and say I never have anxieties, right? They crop up from time to time. But if I waited until I never had that to get started to help others, then I would never start. So, we got to let this go, this idea that we need to be perfect.
Yeah.
And everything needs to be in control.
I've said on this podcast before that I hate when we talk about failures, because failures are a big scary word. Yeah. Like, we make all kinds of like little mistakes. We don't even realize that maybe they were a legitimate failure, or maybe they were like, it wasn't even a failure. It's like, okay, that didn't work, and now we're doing something else.
It's a lesson.
Perfection is the opposite end of things, where like, I don't know of any business that's perfect. it's never something you're ever going to achieve.
Yeah.
Like, so like to think that you need to be perfect when you start your business or whatever, it's never ever going to happen. I had this conversation with my wife this morning, and then my kids were asking questions about like opportunities. And like I've had 3 big opportunities in my life, career-wise, probably more, but like 3 milestone ones, and they never came along when it was the right time. The first one, my wife was pregnant with our first kid. The second one, both of our kids were like 12 months, and I guess that would be 2.5 or something. And I like none of them were like, this is not a good time to make big career and like life changes, but they came, and I recognize they're good opportunities. You have to take them.
Yeah,
you're never gonna find the right time. Like she was saying, like to talk to her mom, like how do you know when's the right time to have kids? Like it's never the right time. You're either gonna have them or you're not, if you want. So it's interesting to have like those mindset conversations.
Absolutely,
yeah. I think that's. I think I like talking about failure sometimes, but not, as we talked before, there's not really a big like failure where people come and like drag you away and like announce it to everybody that you have failed.
Yeah.
It's always like learning and, and oftentimes the best mistakes end up being the best thing for you. So you kind of need to get in that game as soon as possible and like see what happens when it comes to that. I think the other element too is if people can only see what it is like for other people. One of the best things in my life, I think, is, spending years working at a bank and just seeing the reality of things. And I remember my head being turned upside down when this person you think is Mr. Big Shot, successful, rich, comes in and, when you do the math, they have nothing or less than nothing, or they have anxieties because, they've bought all the big truck and the big house, and it's all like on a sort of razor thin month to month. And a lot of other people, if they could only know how good they are maybe doing, would just feel much more confident about just some of those realities or those external perceptions that we let come in.
Exactly. Yeah, that reminds me of, I have this part of my hypnosis, because I came from a design background, I like to incorporate, releasing barriers to creativity, that kind of thing. And one of the pivotal, courses, programs in parts of it, I should say, is letting go of idols, right? So we sit on Instagram and we go, we scroll and we go, oh my gosh, this person's doing so well. Look at them. Like they're doing reels every half hour and, they're doing so well, and I'm not good enough. And I need to do that to be successful and all that. So there's a part of that where we work on releasing that, letting go of these idols that you think are your idols. And that helps to bring that creativity forward for that person,
Just reminds me, quick side story of someone I know who did that with, one of the biggest hustle bros of them all, Gary Vee. And they were someone who was like consuming everything of his, felt like they were a friend. And I'm pretty sure this is who, and I don't actually follow much Gary Vee, so I don't know the specifics of this, but she was saying at one time there was a picture of him sort of holding hands with someone who wasn't his wife. And she was like, what is that? And it turned out he had separated like a few years before, and this was like a new partner. And she felt so betrayed because all of the content was like Mr. Authentic, open, you're my people, you're my, family. And she realized just how constructed all of it was. But for her, it was a huge kind of release point, because it was like that dose of reality and, had sort of changed and understood things. So it's kind of neat how that's everywhere around us.
It really is, especially nowadays with social media, right? Everyone's putting their best self online, and you don't see what's behind the scenes, with the struggles.
Yeah, I'm just thinking now, because I always think about processes and marketing stuff in my head. Like, it'd be fascinating to just do an account for your business that was just chronicling the terrible times or like the bad days and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how it works, but just thinking
it's hard because I think some people do document the journey on that a little bit, but it's hard to do because even then it's still constructed.
That's true.
You're kind of forcing, or what if you're never going to be fully in control of it, like we talked about, but like things are really smooth, then you're going to be forcing bad things to come up or to talk about interesting things. But
I just think it's neat to continue to talk about, I think, these things, and then understand that you can do it. You know, you can be a business owner. You don't have to do what other people are doing. I see that we talk a lot about, you know, on social media. People think, oh, I have a business, so I must be like this other person on, you know, Instagram Reels, for example. Or they think, you know, and there's even businesses advertising. It's like, you know, you own a business, you need to be doing 3 Reels a week. And they just think they have to do that. But there's many paths to your, you know, your brand or who you are. You know, there's different things that you can do, and you can choose those a different way in your own way.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. So how do people find you? What's the process like? So I'm a business owner who and to sort of set this up, I think that working on your mind is just as important or more important maybe than your body, right? So like we go to the gym, we try to eat healthy. We should be doing mind fitness as well.
Yeah.
So somebody listening to this conversation is like, I'm a business owner. I need this. How does that work?
Yeah. So they can find me through my website, www. I don't. Do people use that still? www.
It'll redirect.
Yeah.
Small tip: if you don't put www in, it'll still go.
It'll still go.
Yeah.
So it's Som Hypnosis. So SOMHYPNOSIS.com. Or a really easy way to get me is info@somhypnosis.com. That's my email. And that's probably the easiest ways of contacting me.
Okay. And how does it work? What happens after they contact you?
Yeah, so I have usually if it's through, it's always through email if it's through my website or just through my email. But we have a little chat and set up a time to meet. I have a free hour long meeting with them. It can be either over Zoom or in office. And then we kind of develop, I go over all the barriers to hypnosis, right? So I let them know, no, you're not going to be asleep or under my control or anything like that. So we go through that. We go through everything that you want to work on in your life, because sometimes, like if somebody comes in for weight loss, oftentimes they're looking for freedom, right? They're looking for something deeper than weight loss. You are not your weight loss. You're a whole person that has so much stuff going on, and let's look at that. And once that is cleared up, the weight loss naturally happens, right? That's a natural next step, right? Once you find that love within yourself and you love yourself and you're taking care of yourself. So we talk about that and we create a program based on what you want to do. And so then we set up sessions, basically. Yeah.
Is it like a physiotherapist that's just going to have you into the office for once a week for the next 9 years without a plan? Or like, is it usually not to say that you're never going to stop focusing on your mindset, but like that stuff happens.
Yep.
Like, what's that program look like? I know it's different for everybody, like you said, but
everybody's different. Everybody has what they're going through. But my programs, we like to see a start and a finish, right? And we like that in our minds. So I have sessions of 3, 6, 9, and 12. And we go through, each session is about an hour and a half long. And we go through whatever you need to go through during that session. And we work, usually my sessions are based on, releasing one emotion at a time,
Mm-hmm.
right? With whatever you're wanting your outcome to be. And in the very first session, I'm writing down all your goals, because we're checking in along the way,
Mm-hmm.
right? How do you feel about this now? How do you feel about this? What's going on for you here? And making sure those goals are met,
Mm-hmm.
right? And it's just helping you along your path to achieving those goals. You're doing this wonderful internal work. I'm guiding you, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're doing this work for yourself, and it's wonderful to see the changes.
So every session is like an hour and a half. How
Hour
much of
and
it
a
is
half.
like the hypnosis part versus like like, are you a counselor? Are we
No,
talking for
no.
30 minutes, an hour, and then you're doing something? Or
No, we chat for about 10 minutes, 10 to 15 minutes sometimes. And the rest is in hypnosis.
That's fascinating.
Yeah.
Do you have to make sure people are coming out of hypnosis at the end? How does that work? Like, can I just hop in my car right after?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So usually there's, I bring them into the training. We've got a training room, and we've got hypnosis offices. So in my hypnosis office, you come out of hypnosis, and you still feel really relaxed. Some people feel a bit like, oh wow, that was a journey within the mind. They feel a little spacey, so we sit them down, and get them to come out of that.
Give them like a dad's cookie. And
No, they can have coffee or tea if they want, but it's not that bad. Usually people just it's not like that. But no, the people leave the office pretty relaxed.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. What's just a final thought? What's maybe one thing you wish, people who maybe are on the fence about coming in understood, that you think if they understood that, they would be in a moment?
So I think the biggest thing is the creating awareness that hypnosis is nothing to be feared. Right? I understand, because I was there once, right? I feared it because I thought I was going to lose control, but you don't. I mean, my clients, if they have to go to the bathroom in the middle of the session, they just go, oh, Hillary, I just got to go to the bathroom. And then, you kind of you go to the bathroom and then you come back. So there's no loss of control or anything like that. So that's a big thing. And letting people know that, a lot of people say to me, well, I've never done hypnosis before. I've never been in hypnosis. And then I say to them, well, you naturally go into hypnosis many times a day. When you're watching TV, you're in hypnosis. When you're just waking up in the morning, you're in hypnosis. When you're, going to sleep at night, you go into hypnosis just before you go to sleep, right? You're in that relaxed state. When you're scrolling on your phone, you're in hypnosis. Totally relaxed, eyes just kind of, gazing. When you're in the zone, as people talk about, you're in hypnosis. Hypnosis is a term, right? It's a word, but really it's just, your mind slowing down and giving you that relaxation. Basically, it's deep relaxation. Yeah. So I'd want people to know that it's nothing to be fearful of. It's just a relaxed state. Yeah.
Yeah, I think there are two barriers of, like you said, understanding what hypnosis is. The in the zone thing is really interesting, because I was thinking the same thing recently when trying to put myself in the zone.
Yeah.
With getting certain music, doing something, and I can't get in there. But when you get there, sometimes it's a hypnotic state that you get in, and you rip through this work, and it feels good. Yeah. And the other barrier is getting to know you, which I think has been great. So if I could give you any coaching advice, get out there, do as much networking as possible locally, because you telling your story, or not even your story, but just talking to people, explaining that you're not a magician, and trying to make it a bit more funny for people, but just going out talking to people right away. That first time I talked to you and had coffee with you, I was like, oh, this isn't scary at all.
No.
So that's a big barrier for you to break down too. So.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So if you're listening and you want to find out more, you can find Hillary at State of Mind Hypnosis, SOMhypnosis.com. And you have comments on this podcast, if you'd like to reach out to us, if you'd like to be on the podcast, you can do so by sending us an email to setitup@kawarthasmallbusinesspodcast.ca.